Welcome to my new YouTube series. I can't even remember what I named it, something about homesteading, but it's great. We're here, Queen of the Sun Grown, and I am here with Karrie. I'm super excited to introduce our guest this evening. Karrie is a dahlia farmer here local in Spokane, where I am from, where I live. And for those of you guys who don't know, I have started a new career path in real estate, and I am helping connect homesteaders, gardeners, farmers with rural properties, and that is how I met and connected with Karrie. And when she shared her story, you guys are you're gonna love it. It's amazing. Rise from the ashes, the phoenix, evolving, and she's just an inspiration to me, and I know she's gonna be an inspiration to you. So let's get into all things dahlias. Karrie, you wanna go ahead and introduce yourself and your company?
Of course. So my name is Karrie, and I am born and raised Spokane, Washington. I hit a little hiccup during the COVID era, just like everybody else did, I think, and it took me to the west side of Washington. And it wasn't planned. I had to relocate for work. Um, so when I was over on this side of the state, I was living out south of Spokane. So I lived out there for 15 years, had my own little plot of land. Of course, I hadn't gotten into dahlias yet because I hadn't been introduced to them. However, I was a gardener. I think I've been a gardener for, I'm old, 30, 40 years. I was a kid, so I started young. And so when I relocated to the west side of the state, that's when I was covering all of Skagit County. And that is where, of course, we have the tulips and the farm festivals over there. And I came across a little roadside stand, and there were cut flowers. And so I didn't know what they were. I thought, oh, these are pretty. So I cut myself a bouquet. I put it in my kitchen, and this bouquet lasted forever. And so I finally Googled, I think it was a picture. I just Googled a picture of it. And I did a little research and discovered that they're dahlias. And so if I knew that I was going to come back to the Spokane area, I thought, ooh, I'm going to bring this idea back, have a little farm stand, flower stand, cut flowers, little, self-pay box. And I came back to Spokane a little bit sooner than anticipated. So fast forward, I think I was only on the west side for maybe a year. And then I came back with 250 tubers, and I started them in my 360 square foot studio apartment.
So you had never grown dahlias prior to getting 250 tubers. You were just like all
Nope.
in, like, I love these, I'm gonna go for it.
No, and then now that I've been doing it for a while, people will buy maybe 5 or 10 and just start out, and they're finicky. They're a finicky flower. And so I don't think I realized how deep I dove in with 250. I thought, okay, 250 tulip bulbs, I could do that. Um, so it was definitely a learning curve. Yes. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I
But I started
mean,
them in my studio apartment on shoe shelves. So they took up my back door. I didn't have a back exit to my little studio. And I started them in solo cups and grow
that's
lights.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about dahlias exactly. Like, we're talking words, tubers. For people who have no idea what a dahlia is, I mean, a cut flower. So what is the tuber?
I have some here for you. You want to see some?
Perfect.
So this is a clump. They look like little sweet potatoes. And
Oh,
so
yeah, they
basically
do.
that's what a potato is a tuber. And so they grow roots off of the back of you can kind of see some of the roots here. And so they'll grow roots, and then the flower grows this stalk out top. So I sell only one of these. And then when you plant it in the ground, it grows this new little clump. And then we divide them and sell them again.
That's amazing. So it's
So
the
they're a
gift that keeps
potato.
on giving.
Yeah.
We're getting some background noise, and I'm gonna see if I can't fix this because people are complaining, and I
Uh-oh.
want to try to. Let's see here. I'm gonna undo my headphones and see if that helps. All right, let's see. No, I'm still hearing it. I just changed it, but Um, weird. All right. I'm gonna just try to block it out. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with the background noise. Cat Lady, if you have any tips or tricks for us to help us out, please interject. Sorry for this interruption. Yeah, Karrie, try muting really quick and let me see if the sound continues. Oh yeah, it's her. Okay, so
the real cool thing about moving to the city and living, from the country, moving to the city is that you actually hear the freeway traffic. So it's awesome.
yeah, that's why we're looking for rural land for you. We're gonna get you out of the city, out of that apartment, so you can just freaking grow more dahlias and tubers. So sorry, everybody.
Would it be more helpful if I got off and then got onto my phone into a quieter space?
Yeah. Yes,
So intermission?
please. Yeah, intermission, everybody, smoke break. All right. Sorry, guys. We're going to fix this. Yeah, because that was so distracting. I was like, oh my God, I can't even hear my thoughts. But yeah, I don't even know if she knows like that we're like a bunch of potheads and that what kind of flowers we like. I mean, I'm certain like, I don't throw it out there for, everyone to know in real estate, but it's definitely like obviously it's a part of my life, that they're going to find out sooner or later. So why not just throw it into the conversation on YouTube live stream? Let's see here. Oh, thanks, Cat Lady, coming in, helping me out. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I realize no, they wouldn't have heard me before.
You're an echo. I can hear you and the other thing. Gosh, I fucking hate.
Oh, because I have producer mic on still, so I had two mics. Okay. So it was only echoey for you, theoretically. Because when I'm producer, only you can hear me in your ear.
White noise like of waterboarding. Yeah, homestead acre. Oh my God. I was like, my eye was twitching. Like, what is, and I'm trying to pay attention to what she's saying. And I'm like, I can't even understand anything.
I don't know why, but that's one of my weird, like, things that, like, I can withstand that annoying shit more sometimes than other people, depending on the mood I am. But I'm just like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Just ignore it. It's okay. It's all right. I was thinking it was me because last week my headphones were making me like sound echoey, but I prefer not having headphones. Gosh, let my hair be fluffy and whatever. Chicka, chicka, chicka.
If it was just you talking, it'd be fine. But then when other people are talking, you can get an echo if your speakers are too loud.
It says her name is Larry on this instead of Karrie.
I was hurrying. How about that? Is that better?
Oh, that's so much better. Thank you. Yeah. Oh,
so wow. Now I'm under a grow light in my kitchen.
Perfect. Wonderful. I love the grow light. The grow lights give you such a great glow, right? They're not just Wonderful. For flowers, but they're also for content creation. All right. So everyone had a nice little smoke break. We're back. We're at it. So Karrie, you were just telling us about the starting of your business. You went full force into the dahlias and you just grabbed 250. You showed us some tubers. And so I saw on your website that you also can do cutting. So everyone here in the chat is like a gardener, a farmer, mostly a pot grower, but we love all flowers. So, we're more familiar with definitely cloning. That is something in the cannabis industry that you take the mother plant and you cut clones and then you can just create the same over and over. So what's the difference? I'm just curious because I saw you have pictures of cloning versus growing from the tuber. Are they genetically exactly the same, or what kind of variability do you see growing from clone from tuber?
Genetically identical. Okay. So if you were to take the seeds of a plant, they might be different. They will be different because they're pollinated by bees. But if you take a stem off of a grown dahlia plant and you make sure that you have two nodes, the two nodes on either side, I like to, It's not that you're doing damage to them, but you pull one of those leaves off just to kind of open up a little wound. And that's where those new stems will come out. So you just dip it in. I dip it in a little bit of some rooting compound, put it into a root riot, put it in a tray, cover it up. And then after about 2 weeks or so, it'll grow those roots. So the only difference between the tubers and the cuttings is that the cuttings probably produce less tubers than
Okay,
the
but
tube.
like, so for instance, if tubers are only reproducing after a full season, you can cut clones and like per se like double your plants. Like for you, if you wanted to like have more plants for producing more tubers next season, do you do that, or do you just rely on the tubers? What's your like protocol for that?
So this year I actually
Your
grew.
headphones back on because I'm getting an echo from you.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay, please continue talking, Carrie.
I had this year I grew 150 cuttings. So I actually grew them in my second bathroom. After a while, I never got to walk back into that bathroom for its normal use again. In fact, I told myself I wouldn't do it again this year, and it's actually full of cuttings again. So I grew 150, and they were actually the very first flowers to bloom. They were gorgeous, 5 feet tall, full of stem and leaves and blooms. And when I went to go dig them up, some had tubers, but others did not. They just had these little itty bitty roots. And they were probably only maybe 2 or 3 inches long. So this whole big plant was just held together by these little roots. So it depends on the variety. Some varieties are a little bit more tolerant to those cuttings than others. I noticed that I probably grew maybe eight, I think, of each variety. And I noticed that some varieties were stronger with that tuber production than the others were.
Okay, and so for everybody listening, will you pronounce your business name again, your farm
It's
name?
Mille Fleur. Yeah, it's Mille Fleur. So it's French for 1,000 flowers.
Okay, I'm gonna type that in Mille Fleur for the. I think I spelled it right. Um, okay, so you're selling tubers on your website. You are. Oh yes, there we go. Thank you, Cat Lady, bringing up the website. Here we are now open for 2025-2026 selling season. So this is your website. This is your business, and you do sell flowers. You showed me, and this is a family business, you guys. I love that. Right now, we're in this time of economic upheaval, inflation, and like, how do we come together? We build our resources with our family, and that's what Carrie's doing. Her son help both of her sons, right? You help you
Yeah.
with your business, and so you do sell flowers. Is it once a year at the Rockford Fair?
Yes. So I'm from a small community and I stay small. So I open up a flower booth. My first year was 2 years ago. My son, then I think he was 17, and his girlfriend ran the flower booth for me. And we sold cut flowers for 3 days. It only runs for 3 days. And we sold out.
Amazing. And so
Yeah.
are they like producing new blooms the entire season they're growing, or is it like a one they set their blooms and then that's it? Are you deadheading them? What's like the life cycle during the season of the dahlia?
I think this is probably why people love this flower so much is that you plant it after the first frost. They grow. I want to say that they build not their blooms, but they build their growth probably June, July. And I get my first blooms about the mid to end of July, and then
Okay.
they will bloom until the first frost again. So I can grow flowers up until the 1st of November. And I
Amazing.
do deadhead them so that they focus their energy on more blooms, but they're not that difficult. So if they have some old blooms on there, you still get new blooms. So they get pretty
Okay.
full.
And so like what we've been talking about, vision board, let's all manifest. Everybody listening, we're putting together our magical powers, our prayer, our meditation, our manifestation, that we will find a property for you so that you can have your own little flower stand, just like the one that inspired you, that roadside stand, to be able to sell blooms all season long, because you're telling me you sold out in one event 3 days, but you
Yeah.
could be selling these bouquets essentially from July till October.
Yeah, this year I didn't even pick a bouquet for myself. So all of these 1,700 plants, not one flower was cut for a bouquet. And so it's my reward because we do put in a lot of work to get them to grow. And then they were there seeing me each day as I was working in the field.
I
So,
love
and
that.
just by the way, I did not intend for this to become a business. I think I just wanted it to be roadside cut flowers. And so this is all kind of led up to where we are now by accident. Yeah.
Well, that's a happy accident. You know, being able to sell these tubers, then you can ship them. You ship around the United States.
Correct. Yep.
And your business then, you originally thought like, oh, farms, you know, flower roadside stand, but selling the tubers then is like lasting. It's kind of like, you know, you're taking that plant and giving it to somebody else for a second opportunity of life. Whereas, you know, like I love that, you know, cut flowers are beautiful and everything, but I really love that you've leaned into actually selling the tubers to propagate and encourage more people to grow, because everyone knows that the more you are outside, well, maybe not everyone, but everyone in this chat knows being outside is a key to a healthy, happy life. And the more that we're out in our garden, the closer we are to God and the closer that we are to nature. And so I really just love that. And I know that I have a bunch of questions from one of our Patreon members. Shout out to the Patreon members here in the chat. Every Monday night we go live at 4:30, 4:20. So we've got some questions I'm going to pull up because we did have one of our members, Homestead Acre, who grew dahlias this past year and he had some difficulties. So you're the expert. So let's talk about pests. What do you do for pests? He ran into rabbits living in the dahlias and then predators trying to get those rabbits. And he said that it just ruined his trellising setup. And what do you do for pests? What kind of pests are you combating?
So, so I don't own the property that I do farm on. So gracefully, I've got friends who host my farm. And the last 3 years, including this season, I grow in Latah Creek area, and we have a creek that runs right through the property. So we have moose, deer, marmots, moles, beaver, otters, and gophers. I had not yet seen a rabbit. So unfortunately, this might be a blessing and a curse, but I can't kill anything. I'm not good at killing. So the first year I was out there, I had a loss of about 150 tubers to one gopher and two moles. And the reason why I know this because I've seen them. And then of course we had to coexist and I named them. So Bob, Hank, and Dave were tremendous at wiping out my tubers. And of course, some people, I tried the trap. Traps don't work. They were sneaky. And I had to just take the hit. So I think after that, I learned that I have a little bit of a sacrifice with tubers and I have to kind of just count my losses. But I did track, and this is going to sound really geeky, but I did make a map and I flagged where their tunnels were. And I made a map so that I wouldn't grow in those areas the year number 2 and 3. And so this year I only lost 10. So 10 tubers, yeah.
Just
but
by
I also
moving, just a
yeah.
little slight variation. And that is what we love to hear, is working with nature instead of trying to like manhandle and manipulate it, being like, hey, I am an observant part of nature and I am observing the ecosystem and I am acknowledging what's here because that gopher has intrinsic value simply for existing and doing its gopher thing, which is eating tubers and messing things up.
Yeah. Well, they taste like carrots too. They're like a little combination of carrots and green beans.
So you've tried them?
Yeah, I've taken a bite of a raw tuber. Yeah.
You're like, what's this guy eating? I gotta try a little bit of this.
Well, they're native
they're perennial.
Yeah, they're native to South America too. So they were actually originated as food. So I don't know if they boiled them or baked them or ate them raw, but they're originally set for food. Yeah.
Interesting, which makes sense. Any kind of plant that grows something that big, so you would, you know, as an early hominid, be looking for a food source of starch like that. We had a question asking of whether it was a perennial. So does it come back every year? And somebody responded that they think over zone 8, it is a perennial. Otherwise, it's an annual. It dies off. So, can you answer a little bit about that, if that's correct, or
That is
what?
correct. So 8 and 9, you can leave them in the ground, and they will continue to grow more clump and get bigger. But you can leave them in the ground. Here in 6, I think they've even recently changed our zones. We used to be 7A, but I think we're 6B now. We have to pull them up out of the ground. Otherwise, they freeze and get soggy, and you lose them completely. There have been some people who maybe in 7B-ish, kind of maybe 7A, have tried to cover them with straw and then cover them with tarp. But the difficulty with our area is that we still get solid ground freeze, despite
Yeah.
what that does. So you'll lose them anyway. Yeah. But
So, you are digging them up every winter. You've already dug all of your dahlias up.
yeah, yeah. We grew
Which makes
1,705
sense.
plants. Yeah.
How many?
1,705 was our count for this
Holy
year.
smokes. I thought I had a lot of weed plants this year that I had to process. 1,700 plants? That is
Yeah.
wild. You should be so proud. You did that
Thank you.
by yourself?
So the first year I did by myself, I harvested with my boys. I remember 250 was a lot to dig up. And then gradually we just kind of grew more and more. And this year, I think I may have bit off a little too much more than I can chew because I forgot the boys were going to college. So harvest came around and I had part-time help on the weekends, but it was me out there during the week.
Well, now we're friends. You can call me up. I love getting my hands dirty. I'll help you dig up some tubers next year.
Fantastic.
So I mean, and it makes sense being in our zone that you would be focusing on tubers anyway, because you already have to dig them up. So it like validates and adds value to the act of what you're doing of, hey, this plant isn't going to live over winter, so I have to dig it up, so I might as well be selling the tubers, versus somebody who is like in 8 or 9 zone is able to leave them in and then just cut flowers and sell them. That completely makes sense to me.
Exactly.
So you're selling the tubers individually, like one tuber per order? Is that how it goes?
Okay. One tuber per purchase, yeah. So you purchase one tuber and it's for one price.
Mm-hmm. Does each plant produce more than one tuber? Yes. The clump she showed earlier that had so you start with one tuber every season, and then how many tubers typically? It's like 15, you said, or 20, or?
So it's funny because my kitchen right now is covered in tubers, Alex. So this is going to be a little bit uglier just because it's cut and it's dirty, so it's got dirt on it, and it's got these two little guys. So this is what I would plant in the ground.
Okay.
And we could probably talk about the diagram of the tuber. So this is the body. Then you have what is considered the neck. So it's up here. And then this would be the crown. And on the crown, you want to find an eye. So this is where the plant will grow a stem, is out of the eye. It's kind of like peonies, where they have to have eyes as well. This one here is kind of hard to see that eye, but it's there. I wish I would have brought that clump back in here because there were some obvious eyes on that clump. So yeah, I put one of those tubers in the ground. It grows this great big, anywhere from 3 to, I had one out in my field this year that was 6 feet tall. It was taller than me. So it's amazing that this little itty bitty tuber, and some of them are super small. So I can put, here's a good example. So this little guy here, I can actually put that in the ground. So long as it has the neck and the crown with an eye on it, I can plant it in the ground, and this can grow a 5-foot plant.
I had no idea that dahlias got 5 feet tall. That's wild. So that leads me to a perfect question, because John was struggling with, he just wants to know the best way of trellising the rows of dahlias. So how do you do trellising for a 5-foot tall dahlia plant? What are you doing to keep it upright?
Great question. Every year I've done it, I've done something different. If John is competing with the predators of rabbits, he's going to have more of a hard time keeping them out of the side of the row. So I actually had to keep marmots out this year. I was out in my field one day, just sitting in my car. I think I was getting ready to go. And I saw this marmot just walk up to one of my dahlias and start nibbling on the plant. But he just nibbles a little bit and then carries on. So he doesn't annihilate a whole row. He just wants to taste it. So I thought, okay, I got to keep the marmots out of my rows now. So what I used is the bird netting that you would put over trees. And so I staked the corners of the row, and then I staked maybe every 5 or 6 feet. And I attached that netting to those stakes. So it made itself a little fence. And they
Okay.
actually stayed out of that.
And you wrapped it from the bottom, from the ground, all the way over the top to the other side to the ground, or like how
So it was only, I think I cut the bird netting in half. So I maybe was using 3 to 4 feet off the ground, 4 feet up.
okay.
And it didn't even have to be that tall because the marmots can't jump. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then
Okay.
I actually went around 3 or 4 rows altogether. So it was like I was creating a fence out of this bird netting.
And okay, so you were wrapping around the sides, not going
Yes,
over the tops.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that is definitely one of the techniques we use in cannabis is trellising, like on the side, um, vertical trellising. And so, do you think vertical trellising is better than horizontal trellising?
Man, because then I do that, and then I've got others that need extra staking on the inside of that because they will fall over into that netting, but they also want to grow into each other too. And to prevent powdery mildew, you don't want them to be growing over one another. So I just use those green stakes, 4 to 6 feet tall. They're probably like $1.25 a piece.
Uh huh.
I think they're more like a metal with a like a rubber of green
Yeah.
rubber over
Yep.
them. Yeah. And then I just stake each one individually. So I'll wrap it with twine and tie it down. And as they grow, I redo the twining. So the blooms get heavier and they also get staked up.
All right. Um, that makes sense. And then you're able to just keep like you're cutting them all at when is the fair? When is the event that
Uh,
you cut?
it's usually the third week of September, so roughly about September 20th, 22nd, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Okay. So you're just trying to keep the blooms good until that point, then you cut them all. And so I'm wondering, does by not cutting the blooms, are you like getting more tuber growth or less tuber growth? Have you seen a difference in like plants that you're continually cutting versus not cutting but once a year, and how that impacts, like, because my mind would think if you're cutting the blooms continuously, then maybe more energy is being put into the tubers because there isn't sugars to be stored in the flower bud. But I don't know, that's just me alluding. What have you experimented or noticed a difference?
I have experimented with it, but I've noticed that it depends on the variety, and I don't my bandwidth to track because I have 500 different varieties. So to track which ones bloom better if you don't cut them or if you do cut them, I've tried both ways, and honestly, I don't see much of a difference. It actually, for me, has everything to do with how long my growing season is. So
Okay.
they say your dahlia needs 120 days to mature to be able to get those clumps. Well, it also depends on heat. Like this last year, we had so much heat so early, so it stunts my growth in my field anyway. And then if we have cooler nights and cooler days, that also stunts it. So they can be a little finicky when it comes
What
to
When did you plant them? Like, when do you think the best time? Since they need 120 days, it's a pretty long season. So in zone or 6B, when was that for you? Getting them in the ground?
I've learned that I plant them up, well, typically around in our area for the Spokane area, we always look at Micah Peak, right? And we see snow,
Yep.
we think, okay, we have to hold off. I've always planted my garden around Mother's Day weekend, but I'm noticing if I plant earlier, like maybe the 1st of May, but I also use tunnel covers with the white fabric.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps them protected, because if I put tubers out that are already pre-sprouted and they have leaves, I don't want them to get frosted. Otherwise, I'm going to lose that growth and we're going to have to start all over again. So I use those tunnels with that white cloth to protect them. And I think that we're out of the clear really well here in this area for frozen ground. Tubers do like to have that 60-degree temperature in the soil, but they're also stored at 45 degrees. So they can handle a little bit of that chillier soil, so long as we're not hurting the tops of them out in the weather. So
Okay, so interesting. I didn't realize that. I mean, it makes sense. Just like potatoes start growing, their roots, but they're growing. They're actually starting to leaf out before you plant the tubers. Like you put it
yes.
in the ground, and there's already some. Okay, interesting. Um, and how are you preparing your soil then for planting? Like, what are you doing to get them in the ground? Are you covering them with mulch and straw? Are you amending in the fall with any fertilizer? Or are you just using, like, what's your protocol?
I just fly by the seat of my pants. So honestly, where I was this last year, it was a lot of silt because it was that creek bed. So we did a lot of mending with steer manure, and a little bit of some compost. But I also like to use bone marrow in my holes. So there was a lot of amending season by season. It just got a little easier. But the field that I was in my very first year, it was a field, I think that it probably had steer in it. The soil was incredible. My first crop was amazing. I didn't even have to amend it. So I think that my first year, this is probably towards John, is my first year I got lucky, because if I were facing the voles and the moles and the slugs and the earwigs and the soil that I've been fighting for the last 3 years, I probably would not have had I probably wouldn't have done it a second year. I probably would have quit.
All right. Well, perseverance. That's part of
Yeah.
gardening is just the pests, man. It means you're in a vibrant ecosystem full of diversity. And I always say that, you got to give up at least 10% of your garden um, for your tithing back to Mother
The pests.
Earth.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, do you know like what kind of soil the dahlias prefer? Like what's optimal? Do you know like pH? Are you looking at things like that? Or
I
like,
don't know the pH level. I do know that see, and I've heard and I've read that they're not as fond of nitrate in the soil, but I found that they like the nitrates. And the phosphorus, of course, is important, as well as the potassium. So I just use a 10-10-10 fertilizer, so it's clear across the board that they're getting equal parts. Um,
okay.
yeah, and then with the steer manure and the bone marrow, and I have actually one year I put in the oyster shells. So I don't know if anybody has read about this, but oyster shells trying to keep those moles and the voles from nibbling on those tubers because they don't like the sharpness of the oysters.
Huh.
Um, what else have I've done so many different things just to trial and error. And then I found the oysters were just a waste of money because they just wanted those tubers so badly they were going to eat them anyway.
That's so funny. I
Um,
mean, it's adding calcium, right? And that's
yeah,
a good all plants, everyone. That's like a secondary macronutrient, I guess.
yeah,
Secondary nutrient versus
yeah.
primary. Okay, so another question that John has is how much stem do you leave on the plant um, when you're planting, I guess, and like or so when you're pulling your dahlias up from the ground for the season, and then can you just describe that process of dividing and storing? Like how much stem are you leaving on the plant? How are you separating your clumps and bulbs? Do you cut out any rot? Would you toss the entire cluster if there is rot? Like what's that process when you're harvesting?
So when I plant them, they're usually about 3 to 4 inches under the ground, the tuber. Now, if I plant them and they've got growth on them, then I might take the first couple nodes off and plant them and bury those nodes a little bit so that those nodes will actually create more roots and more tubers. When it comes to harvest, the first thing that we do is we wait for frost. Our first frost will tell us and the plants to start going into dormancy so that we know that and of course we don't want to we don't want to kill healthy flowers either. I mean, I did that one year just for a couple of them and I didn't like it. So we wait for that first frost, and the first frost just annihilates. It doesn't even have to be a heavy frost because these flowers do not like that coldness. So we'll go through and we will cut all the stalks probably about, I want to say 8 to 12 inches above the ground, because when we dig by hand. We don't use any kind of farming implements or anything like that. So we'll put a pitchfork in the ground, we'll lift it up, and if we have enough stalk, we're able to help that cluster come up out of the ground with our pitchfork. If we cut too short, we wouldn't be able to have anything to hold on to. But with that being said, when I get them into storage, so I'll hose them off, getting most of the dirt off of them. And then we let them dry, we let them cure. So we do not put them into storage while they're wet. If you do put them into storage while they're wet, they will rot. And so there is something called stem rot. So if your stem is too tall and you're storing them, then that stem could start rotting because there's a lot of moisture in that stalk. And so if it's not completely dry, then it will continue to rot in storage, and it will actually rot down into your mother tuber and into all of the other baby tubers that you've created. So you definitely want the stalk to be dry, stalk to be short before storing. Some people I know of actually go from harvest, washing, drying, and then dividing and then storing. That way they're not even storing with a stalk on it. So this year I'm actually kind of doing both. I'm doing some dividing as I go and storing, and I'm actually finding that I do have some root rot. So it's really important that we continue to check those clumps when they're in storage, because even I thought that they were dry and they weren't. And I
Okay,
could
so
have
let me get this straight. You're going into the field after the first frost, you're cutting them down to 8 to 12 inches, and then you're using, how long before you dig them up? Are you waiting any time after cutting them, or are you digging right, like, just as soon as you can?
I'm I'm watching the weather. I'm watching for rain. I'm watching for snow. One year we did not get our first frost until November 7th, and then it started snowing the week after. So this time of year gets a little stressful when you've got that many tubers in the ground. To dig them up before that, I want to call it more of a killing freeze rather than just a frost. So this year it was frost. I did wait 2 weeks because there wasn't anything going on in the weather that told me that we were going to have anything that would be more killing in the future forecast. So, but when I got out there and had those weekends, I think one weekend we dug up 600, and then the following weekend we dug up 900.
Wow.
So
Okay,
when we
so
get
you
digging,
dig
we
them
get
up
digging.
with a pitchfork?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're cutting them, letting them sit in the ground and kind of let that stem just dry out a little bit, and then digging them up as you need to. Obviously, here in the Pacific or in the Northwest, we are limited on our growing season. At the end, it's always watch the weather, watch the weather. What am I going to do? I missed a lot of things to get, my more important crops down. I was like, man, it just comes on you like that. So I totally understand. And then once you dig them up, are you like, you're washing them in the field, or you're washing them, where are you washing them?
So I've done it a couple different ways. The very first year I washed them right in the field. That was the year that it didn't freeze until November 7th. So we were out there hosing off tubers and freezing our booties off because it was so cold. So the second year I said, okay, we're not going to do that again. I'm just going to dig them up, brush the dirt off, and then put them into storage. But for us here, we have such a dry winter that dirt sitting on the clumps will actually absorb the moisture out of the clumps, and it will dehydrate them and shrivel them up. So I learned not to do that. So I'll wash them in the field. This is where it'd be really nice to have my own field. So I don't have to, so I can just store and watch them as I'm working.
Yep.
This year, what we did is dug up 500, let them sit on some racks as we were digging. And then the last couple hours we were out in the field, we would pick the dirt off of them. So we just kind of sat up on some tubs and just had a couple little tools and cutting tools. And that's where we cut the stems down further down. So they were about 2 inches to 3 inches tall.
Okay.
Put them into bins, hauled them to my storage unit, put them out on racks in my storage unit to dry. And then I was every night for 2 weeks, I was out there picking more dirt away, cutting more down, cutting the roots off, and putting them into bins with pine shavings.
So for curing, are you controlling your humidity and temperature in your storage?
No, not really. So
Okay.
humidity, and that's when you have, see, I think that we as dahlia growers have to be very flexible when it comes to the weather. So depending on the humidity, like you just said, depending on the rain, because we could be doing it in the rain, it could be high humidity. It could be cold and it could be low humidity. So our dry time varies from year to year or even from day to day. So I just tell people just to watch. So don't walk away from them for a couple days and ignore them, but to continue to observe and watch them and see what they need. So
So, John wants to know what are the parameters then? Like, what's ideal zone of humidity and temperature?
man, it just I think there's a ratio to it, and I'm just now picking this up. I haven't studied it enough to understand, at 50 degrees temperature, we want 70% humidity, or at 30% or 30 degrees, we want 80% humidity. So there's a ratio to it that I haven't quite figured out yet. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of trial and error with dahlias.
Um, in the cannabis industry, we are very tuned in on the curing process, and we have like down and through the growing process and the curing process a thing called VPD, which is vapor pressure deficit. And we're like, because the higher the temperature is, the more moisture the atmosphere can hold, and so you can find the sweet spot for
Mhm.
growing at a specific light intensity with humidity and temperature. But then that on the converse side is also curing, and so we're like trying to maintain when we're drying our plants like 65 degrees, 68 degrees with 60 to 50% humidity. And so like I have a dehumidifier running, and either an AC unit when I was in California, or in here I had a heater going because it was so cold to help dry things out. And so I know the people in here, John, he's like gonna nerd out on wanting to know what the exact parameter is for curing these dahlias. So we're gonna have to have as you experiment with that more, we'll have to have you back and see if you pick up any differences or nuances with the temperature and humidity. Because I know that my nerds in here are definitely wanting to know
I
that.
honestly wish that we had the answer. I wish somebody would have that number. I think that a lot of us would be saved from a lot of headache, especially during storage.
So you
And there's,
should do it. Get the hygrometer and start taking notes, because you're
that's a good
in there
idea.
checking it all the time
Yeah.
anyway. You could be the woman who is responsible for giving us, the dahlia growers, the information so that new novice dahlia growers aren't losing any plants to rot or whatever, and having the best, or like you said, drying out, shriveling. um yeah, that's, I think we're gonna ask you to do that for us. Before we wrap this up, I have one more question for you. You brought up PM. So, powder mold, we're all familiar with powder mold. Every plant has its own powder mold, powdery mildew that it is susceptible to. And so it sounds like dahlias are no different. Are there any other diseases or pests, issues that you run into, specifically pathogenic, fungal, bacterial, anything like that, that you've experienced, or things that you do to avoid them?
I think that if anybody were to follow some of the dahlia groups, I think the number one culprit would be gall. So it's
Gall.
just, yeah, it's just that disease that takes over and kind of just disfigures the clump. So there's crown gall, which is on the clumps themselves. And then there's leafy gall, which is coming up from the clumps are this thick, it looks like cauliflower. It's not a healthy stem. It's almost like if our tubers could have cancer. But you could find this when you're digging it up in the fall, and you could have had one of those 5-foot plants with lots of blooms on it and then find that it's got this bacterial infection. And so there's no way to, well, number one, cure it. Uh-oh, did I lose ya? Nope, that's you. And
Oh, she's showing us some gall.
There's no way to cure it other than to dispose of these tubers in a trash can, not your compost, because it will spread in the soil and affect other plants. Another would be the mosaic virus. So it's kind of customary for tomato plants. So mosaic virus is unhealthy for tuber or for dahlias as well. And then tomato spotting wilted, the TSVW WV virus. So that's, we see that in dahlias as well.
Yeah, interesting. Do you do any so we in cannabis also the mosaic virus is something, no gall, but one of the things that I teach is using beneficial microorganisms as preventative, like boosting your immune system, right, with the good guys. And so trichoderma is a super aggressive fungus that outcompetes a lot of other fungi. And then Bacillus subtilis, there's a bunch of different varieties of this type of bacteria that are basically like probiotics or prebiotics.
Is this kind of what you're talking about?
Oh, let's see. Maybe. I'm not sure what.
This is what happens when your kitchen turns into your, I just have everything. I'm not plugging anything, but I use this when they're babies and when I'm doing cuttings. So it's the good guys. Now, see, this is the sciencey stuff. I just read stuff and go, yeah, so I should probably use that. I don't know why, but I've got some amazing new growth on the cuttings. This is the first time I've used it this year on my cuttings, and they're doing really well because of it. So,
what do you know? What varieties are in there? What strains of bacteria? Or
there's no way I could read this.
Okay, all right, no worries. What's the brand or what's the product called?
I can't read that either.
I can't read it. It's not clear enough for me. Myco. Okay, so mycorrhiza fungi. So that's going to be mycorrhizal super pack. So that's going to help. That will help definitely boost the plant's immune system. It's going to help the plant grow a lot more. It's going to create a mycorrhizal inoculation in the root system. That's going to help create acids to dissolve phosphorus and uptake more nutrients.
Listen to you.
And then it's going to be able to connect with the other plants through that mycelium, so then they can talk about what's going on. Like they'll literally be connected, all of your dahlias, when they're inoculated with mycorrhiza, they'll be chatting together just like the World Wide Web. They'll be like, yo, there's this bacteria, freaking galls down there. Let's produce some of these other exudates to try to combat
Girl,
this.
you're the nerd that I need to get together with to figure out the perfect temperature.
Yes, I am. I love nerding out about this kind of stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Can we do a giveaway? Give away one of your tubers?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so pick a tuber and we'll show it off, I guess, like the variety or whatever. And then we need a guess. We need everyone listening. So there's 17 people listening. We want to have something for them to guess, to win, the opportunity to win. Let's see. How long do you guys think it took her to dig up, what did you say, 500 tubers in one day or 600? How many is the most that you've done in one day?
So here's this. I won't say it out loud, but I have actually kept track of my man hours.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out the best way to calculate. I'm going to say that first weekend was 500, right?
Plants. Okay.
But
and then you said
nobody knows how many people I had in that field or how many altogether man hours.
All right. let's say, like, just how many hours it took. How many people did you have
How many
for the five?
people?
Yeah, how many people working?
That for 500, it was
Uh-huh.
3 of us.
3 of us. Okay.
Yep.
So you guys guess how many hours it took 3 people to dig up 500 tubers, and whoever gets closest to the total, it doesn't have to be like each individual person, just the hours that you guys all work. So then we're not taking into account like who worked how many, um just the flat hours total. It took 3 people to dig up 500 plants. And then will you which plant are you going to give away? And so let's, cat lady, can we show it, which one do you want to give away, Karrie?
Well, that clump that I left in my office, that was really
Mm-hmm.
pretty. I don't know how many people got to see that,
Okay,
but
you're going to do that one.
yep.
What is it called?
I didn't even. You want me to go get it real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, all right, hold on.
All right, so we've got 40 man hours, 77, 42. Um, yeah, we're including, I guess, all of the people? Is that, I'm confused with the amount of hours that you guys are putting in there, because didn't she say she did 1 day? That's more than 1 day. I'm confused.
So this little lovely is white swan. She's actually a little bit more rare because you can't
Okay.
find her much on the other websites. And she is a white water lily form. Really pretty.
All right, cat lady, will you pull that one up on her? It's on your website, right?
Yes.
Okay. It was called what again?
White
Repeat.
swan.
White swan. All right, let's see the white swan. And you guys, we want to know, not like adding up, because she doesn't know how many hours each person worked. So just don't add up each person together. Just say like, how many hours total did it take? Not adding everybody up. Just ignore that they're, I mean, I guess take into consideration that there's 3 people, but you're not adding up each individual person because she doesn't know how much each person worked. So just the total hours. Let's say it starts at 9 a.m. and it ends at 9 p.m. That's 12 hours or whatever. Just guess that number. Don't try and add people up. And then she'll answer. So this is the white swan. Beautiful. And so
So here, I just
it
snipped this
normally
off.
sells for $14 for 1 tuber, and you ship them out in late March through early May. Is there a specific? Okay, it says shipping dates are dependent on the growing zone temperatures. So
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Um, I don't know if anybody else is finding this. I'm sure we're seeing it collectively across the board, but our weather is changing. And so this last spring, just when I had this open window, because there's this time of fulfilling orders, having them sit in boxes and airtight boxes for only so long, and to be able to ship them, and also so they're not sitting in a warehouse over a weekend if it's not too hot, not too cold. And we have to calculate all of the weather patterns between our door and where they're being delivered. So 1 week we can be at 50 degrees and everything's fine. And then all of a sudden we've got this freak storm that brings in 30-degree temperatures and we can't ship it. So we're finding a little bit more of a challenge to predict when our shipping times are. And so basically, I mean, there's a window there of a couple months, and we just try to get as many of those orders in or out as possible during those windows when those little weather breaks.
Okay. Everybody's confused on what I said about guessing the hours. So do you want to explain? Because I'm confused. What are they guessing exactly?
Well, let's think here. So let's do a guess of how many hours it takes to plant
Okay.
1,700 dahlias.
All right, there we go, guys. Leave it to her. I'm just confusing y'all. I'm freaking sick and high over here. Just let's see. So 1,700 dahlias. How long does it take to plant? Pick a number. Sorry for the confusion, everybody. Pick a new number, and you have an opportunity to win this white swan, beautiful dahlia, and it will be shipped out sometime between March and May. And for those of you, um, yes, there we go. I'm gonna new guess. Sorry, show on the stream. How long does it take to plant 1,700 dahlias? That's the new guess.
Do I have to? Do I have to add the answer right now?
No, they haven't guessed yet. So
Okay.
I'm waiting for the chat for it to show up. Everybody was confused and guessing hours on what I had previously said. So
So let's answer that question then. So I hired two remarkable boys from my old community out south of Spokane. I still belong to the community pages and said, hey, I'm looking for two high school because my boys left me to college. So I hired two boys. They had dug up 500 tubers in 6 hours.
okay. Wow. Two
Yeah,
boys.
two
So
boys.
that would be 12 hours if we were adding it all up,
Yeah.
for everybody that I was confusing earlier. But okay, so we've got 10 people listening, and we have uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guesses. Anybody else want to throw a guess in there before? And while we're waiting for the last few guesses, if you guys don't win and you want to order tubers from Karrie, her website, you can go and sign up for the newsletter. Can you show us, Cat Lady, where the newsletter sign up is? I'm not sure if it's easy to find on the website, maybe in the home, but if her newsletter is going to have you can sign up, and she's going to have a sale for Black Friday, and it's going to give out a discount code. And so everybody who's a part of the newsletter is going to get that discount code, and then you can put an order in when it goes on sale. So contact us. Is this accurate, Karrie?
Yes. Yep. So if you sign up,
Support?
if you sign up for the newsletter, then everybody will be getting that information here shortly about our day after Thanksgiving sale.
Okay. Hands Cold wants to know if you use a tractor or are you doing everything by hand?
Everything is by hand. Everything from laying the rows to digging the holes to digging them up out of the ground. When I fertilize, I'm still using one of those little pumps. I still don't even have a backpack for that. So I'm probably creating a lot more work for myself, but there's less damage to the tubers too when everything's done by hand.
Okay, yeah, I feel it. Doob Crew wants to know the difference between a tuber and a bulb.
Oh, great question. So I don't even know the answer to that. I think
bulbs are what,
yeah.
like tulips and daffodils, and
It's how they grow. So I do believe, because these are considered, that's a good question. I've never thought about that. I do know that bulbs can be in the ground and they can freeze. They're fine. They will freeze fine. These are obviously more tender. They cannot absorb water. They cannot sit in water. So the chances of a tuber rotting, that's probably the most difficult part of planting a tuber, is that you have to estimate rainfall, and they have to be able to have their roots to be able to absorb water. They can't just sit in water.
Okay. Well,
I wouldn't eat a bulb. I would eat a tuber, but I wouldn't eat a bulb. Maybe
yeah,
that's the difference.
yeah. We'll have to have somebody who grows daffodils or something come on who grows.
Or we can
bulbs.
just find the answer. We can find the answer and we can talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, it seems like everybody has put their answer in. So, what is the answer to the question, Karrie?
I have between May 8th and July 18th, I consider this my planting timesheet, and it was 149 hours.
149 hours to plant 1,700 plants. So that is who won. Hands Cold. No, Midnight Samurai. He guessed 80. 80 is the highest that we have on here.
80 was the
So,
highest?
yeah, 80 was the highest. They thought you were
149.
fast, man. They were like, she can do it if she can play at 1780 hours.
Yeah.
Midnight Samurai, you have won the tubers. Woo! Cheers!
Here it is. This is your little tuber. Can we see the eyes that are on there? Am I close enough to it?
I think so, a little bit. It's
Can you
kind of
see
blurry
him?
for me, but
There's a little bump. Yep.
So what does he need to do to get? You want me to just email you with or text you with his info?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. And then
right.
included in that package will be obviously growing directions in case they have never grown a dahlia before.
All right, that's amazing. Thank you so much for doing that for our listeners. And I am just so happy that I met you, and we're like the mycelium right now. I know that most of the people on my channel are listening for cannabis, but we need to remember that we're all fractals of a universe, that literally all plants, humans, organisms, we are made up of the same thing, and transcending whatever subject it is, like reaching over and out of your boundaries and learning things and putting yourself into new situations is how we grow as individuals. And I'm really excited for this new exploration of just bringing in people who are doing other things, growing food, growing plants, growing flowers, making the world more beautiful, making their life more beautiful, connecting with nature, connecting with God. And it is just, I'm super grateful. Thank you for allowing me to help you on your real estate journey and finding your farm. And if anybody listening needs help finding a farm, a rural property, a homestead, no matter where you're at in the United States, please reach out to me. Instagram, email, Patreon, whatever way, YouTube comment, and I will find you. Or you can email me, alexandria@queenofthesungrown.com, and I will help you find a realtor, a property, and get you going, because there's nothing better than being self-sufficient, especially in these times that we're living in where there's so much uncertainty economically, politically. And the best thing we can do is come together to help build each other up and build these resilient communities that are bound by that mycelium, that glue of loving the earth and taking care of it. And I think all gardeners and all farmers are stewards of the land, and we're doing God's work. So thank you, Karrie, for being here
Thank
and
you.
doing God's work.
Thank you very much. And we need to get together and geek out about the good bugs, because I think that what you're using for your crop might be beneficial for what I need for mine.
Oh, girl, yes. I would love to geek out with you and show you some of my tips and tricks. This is
Awesome.
what I live for. All right,
Thank
guys, have an awesome night, and we'll see you next week. We're going to have 2 pot farmers from Oklahoma who are kicking out, getting rid of the license, and going to go homestead in New Mexico. So join us at 4:20, 4:30 next week, and let's hear some more homestead